today, because Patrick actually is the first member I knew in BOC, of course, after Daniel. So, and throughout my few conversations with Patrick, he strikes me as someone who is very approachable, very soft-spoken, and a very helpful person. Yeah. So a little bit introduction about Patrick Claus. He is the CEO and Director of Swiss Tech Berhard, with over 20 years of experience in the IT industry. So over these 2 decades, he's acquired extensive experience in the areas of IT service management, service improvement programs, as well as the IT consulting services. His expertise revolves around cybersecurity and now the more popular, big data. Yeah, and besides manning his company, he's also a speaker and panelist at various conferences. I Googled him earlier and saw that he also speaks in the TED Talk. Yeah, looking at his background, it's not surprising that he sees himself as someone who is very passionate about the new technologies. And now he spends most of his time revolving around consulting and supporting companies in going digital, as well as assisting companies to use the latest technologies to generate additional business values. Yeah, so this is a little bit about Patrick, and I will later I'll pass it on to him to share more about his company, about himself. But before I invite Patrick to share with us, I'd like to remind us all to please mute our audio throughout the session. Yeah, I also like to encourage us, if you have any questions, just type it in the chat first. And at the end of Patrick's sharing, we will, I'll get him to answer some of the questions that's posted. Okay? So, but without further ado, Patrick, why don't you start the session by sharing with us a little bit more about the company? Over to you, Patrick.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Milin. Really appreciate that. And well, it's already 3:10. I think I run right away into the presentation. And well, you will see within the presentation what I'm really doing. I don't want to do too much marketing. I think we have more time when we are on the course for that. So let me try to share the screen first. Let's see. Yes. Let me know if you can see the black screen now with the the title slide. Yeah. Okay. Good. Very good. So I run you quickly through the agenda. I have these 4 items here. And I think after every topic, I can make like a 2-3 minutes break for 1 or 2 questions, like right away. Else, I think we have more time at the end of the session also to ask more questions. But please feel free also to ask like, well, whenever I ask you. So some use case at the end. So we start with clean up some of the hype words, which I thought was quite important because currently we hear a lot of industrial revolution, industry 4.0, digital transformation, go digital, blah, blah, blah. I think it's important that we understand first what these terms mean so we can work with that. Then the second topic will be why we need digital transformation, which are the technologies involved, and of course, where to start with that all. Then I can share some use cases also. Depending on how much time we have left or how much more you want to know, I can share a lot more use cases in the end. So let's start with that term, fourth industrial revolution. So if it's the fourth, of course, there were 3 industrial revolutions before. Started all with the steam engines in the 1800s. And you can see what is most important to me here is that this is an area, right? It's not like, oh, it started exactly 1760 or 62 or something like that. No, it was like an area of like 60 years where like the steam was invented and machines could be powered by the steam. And the second area was around electricity. So that was like roughly 60, 80 years later in the 1800s, 1900s. where machines were mostly powered by electricity. So electricity changed a lot in the lives of people where they didn't have it before. The third one was then like in the 1900s, where slowly like computers came up and supported people in working with digital machines. And the fourth today is like, we call it the intelligence that is added to the computing. Of course, a lot of computing still around, but it's more like this interconnectivity, right? So it's not like one computer working alone. It's more like machines working together, and even like machines can give instructions to other machines. So it's this interconnectivity that makes everything more intelligent. So that's the fourth industrial revolution. And compared to that, we talk about Industry 4.0. And so you can see right away when we talk about Industry 4.0, this is mostly about technologies. So depending on which picture you see 9 pillars, 7 pillars, 11 pillars, depending on who really prepares those pictures. But in the end, it's always about technology, and the focus of this is clearly into manufacturing. So whenever someone talks about Industry 4.0, the idea is to talk about manufacturing. So how can these technologies help into the manufacturing industry? And so to put that into perspective, I quickly summarize these two terms, and I brought up a new term here, Industry Forward. That is basically a Malaysian term. I explain in a minute. So again, to summarize, Fourth Industrial Revolution, it represents an area. It was basically introduced in 2015 by Klaus Schwab, that's the founder of the World Economic Forum. And it covers a wide range, like smart cities. It has a focus on the economy, on businesses, on government, society, and individuals. And what was important to me also, the abbreviations that you can have is either 4IR or 4IR. I'll tell you later why this is important. Again, compared, Industry 4.0 was introduced basically before this term Fourth Industrial Revolution. It was presented in Germany 2011 as a project in a high-tech strategy 2020. So what they wanted to implement. And it is clearly, the focus was clearly on manufacturing only. That's where Germans are very strong in, and that's why this paper was focused on manufacturing only. So today it is a subset of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It describes 7 to 11 technologies, and mostly the abbreviation we can see is I4.0. And finally, the Industry Forward, that is a Malaysian national policy on Industry 4.0. So again, it focuses strongly on manufacturing only. It's governed by MITI, and it's kind of framework that defines the vision, the national goals, and the shift factors, the enablers for manufacturing, how that should move into the future. Also, if you're interested in that, because you're in manufacturing, let me know. I can help you a little bit more with that. There is some readiness assessment. Pre-COVID, there was like a free assessment that companies could request, and then MITI organized like a provider that came on site to figure out like how ready you are for Industry 4.0. So mostly again manufacturing. So why I mentioned abbreviations today is really interesting to see these terms here, Industrial Revolution 4.0 or IR 4.0. I just want to make you aware that these things do not really exist, even though we see it like really, really often. So people just mix it together. They mix the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the area, with the Industry 4, like what is focusing on manufacturing. And well, you can just let these people know, be precise. What are you talking about? Are you talking about a revolution, about the change in the era, or are you talking about specifically technologies that are used in manufacturing? Even though it works together in the end, of course. So when we talk about digital transformation, I also want to clean up a little bit with that, because many people talk about digital transformation without realizing what it really means. And from this overview here, you can already see digital transformation is at the very end of like a road, a journey. And basically there are two more terms here, digitization and digitalization. I quickly run through those and explain what it is, and then you can see the connection and also how it can help your companies. So usually we start with the digitization, and digitization is nothing else than the transition of objects from analog to digital. So some ideas or use cases here. It's converting a paper form, like a user manual, into a digital document. Like instead you're having like the printed out 200 pages, you get a PDF. So if you have it in paper form first, because someone write it on paper and then you put it into digital, that is the process of digitization. Okay. The digital newspaper, for example, is a very good example of this kind of transition that happened. Like for all those who read the paper, the real newspaper before in paper form, today maybe you read a digital newspaper only online. And many other things we can have, like sign up forms, request forms, or like even if you use WhatsApp today to communicate instead of writing a letter, basically that is digitization. But that's all, right? It's not more than that. There's nothing digitally transformed just because you use WhatsApp instead of like writing a letter, right? It's a very simple thing that you did, but it's at the beginning of like of this journey or this road to digital transformation. And so when we come to digitalization, that is basically the same but applying to an entire process. So not only like a small object, but once you have like an object digitized, you can use it in a process that can be also digital, right? So you take advantage of the digitized content. That's why you have digitization first and then digitalization, right? You cannot digitalize a process when you have the paper still, or the object still in paper form, right? So you need to bring it first in digital world, and then you can use it, leveraging like technologies that are made for that. So some use cases or ideas I put together here. Of course, there's like endless, but some things that you can maybe or help you to understand or imagine is you take this digital document that you created from a paper manual and you put it in smart glasses, right? So someone like an engineer can put the smart glasses, and instead he has to read, he can follow the video in the glasses while he is doing something. Like you want to teach him a process of repairing an engine. So the instruction comes directly from the glasses in a digital form, of course. That says, okay, now you have to take this screwdriver and then you go to this screw and you loosen it. And then next you go to the other screw and you loosen it. Same for assembly lines or some things like that, right? Another example would be like a supply chain process, like ordering processes or invoicing processes that you can automate. So whenever you have like a process fully automated in the digital world, then you're in this phase here. Also, for example, analyzing data in real time to find new revenue. For example, people scrolling through your web page, you can analyze in real time like what kind of devices they're using it, and you can use this to your advantage to like put offers to these people together like in real time. Okay. And once you have digitized your objects, you have digitalized the processes, then you can go into the digital transformation. And what is important here is basically that this is a fundamental change in in the culture. So not only leadership, but in the entire culture of a company and the mindset. It is not about the technologies only. The technologies are just the tools, right? But basically, it really needs a mindset change to work with, to transform. If like your top leaders don't understand or don't want to digitally transform, not make use of the digital benefits, then it will never happen in the company, right? Because you always have to discuss and argue why would you need like something in a digital form instead of paper form. So we have the culture, which is important, the leadership, which is important. Of course, you are using emerging technologies to do that. And in the end, the benefits you get is really speed to value delivery. You can create new products and new services also. Like I mentioned before with the digital newspapers, with that new products, the newspapers came up with new products, right? On how they can advertise, like adding a podcast or adding video content. So this gave a new product in the end. You can not only read the newspapers, but you can see the newspapers in a video, something like that. Some use cases or precisions here. So it's a digital first organization that has a strategy, a digital strategy. So whatever you do or your plan, it goes with a digital first mindset. Okay. And more important, also getting rid of the silo thinking. It is a transformation across the entire company. So it's not like the sales still go out with their papers, right? And try to get someone to sign up to it. No, it's like a transformation across the company. So the entire processes that you have end to end will be digitalized. So when we go back to supply chain, imagine that you can have a request form online. So the ordering process goes online. The robots or the bots send this request directly to the warehouse. The robots there or the people there can package it. The address is printed, put on the pack. It's sent out. Maybe the delivery man is requested automatically online also. And in the end, also the invoice is sent automatically, right? There's no like human interaction between the processes anymore. The processes are fully aligned with each other, right? So that is like the first part with just to clarify on the terms. I'm not sure if someone want to ask a question right now. Just to this topic here, like terms or something like that. Okay, if not, then I just move on. That's also good. It can always have two meanings, right? Like either the explanation was good or the explanation was so bad that no one has an idea what I'm talking about. But I take it you get the key ideas of that. So the question is why do we need to transform digitally, right? That is the question I hear mostly, especially in manufacturing. It's like, look, I've manufactured like 30 years the same way. I'm very successful. Why should I transform right now? Let's have a look at some examples here. This is the classic, right? This is like in every webinar or session you go about digital transformation, Kodak will pop up. And this company was also very successful, and for like almost 100 years, they produced film rolls, right? Very successful. And they just missed one important step. That was like the photography went into digital. Within 5 to 10 years, no one bought any more film rolls because everyone was making pictures with the camera. Like before the smartphones, only I would say like that cost them like maybe 50% of the business. Once the smartphones went out, the business was entirely dead. And the funny thing about Kodak is like the digital photography was first invented by them. But the leadership, like the CXOs, they did not believe that this was like the future in photography. So the first digital camera was produced or invented by Kodak themselves, but then they threw it away because they thought that that has no future. Well, later the company died because they did not transform in the digital way. A second example is Blockbuster. That's an American company which disrupted the industry first. Blockbuster was like the VHS and DVD rental stores. So within few years, they figured out like going to cinema was expensive. People wanted to see movies at home. So what they did is like you can just rent the movies basically in VHS and DVD. So they had like 10,000 of stores, 100,000 employees, built up like a multi-billion-dollar business. But they just missed the point that streaming came in, right? So people started to stream, and they just entirely missed that time. And within few years, the company just died also. And the third example I want to give is this one here. This is like a good example of how something went on for like years, hundreds of years without any transformation, right? Taxis, they drive from A to B, they collect the money, and that's the entire business that worked really well for them for hundreds of years, until a company called Uber. And here in Asia, My Taxi first and then Grab came in. And interesting to see was that in, well, first of all, I would need to ask the question, why did the taxi themselves not implement an app? Well, the reason is more or less simple, because they didn't have to, because there was no competition on it. It made no sense for them. You want to order a taxi, go to the road, or just call a number, and then that's it. And then Uber just simplified that entire process, even opened it for like private drivers, which made the taxi drivers angry. Here in Asia or in Malaysia, I would say the taxi driver were a little bit more lucky, at least those who wanted to transform digitally. So, or I would just say like wanted to transform. So they were fortunate enough that Grab had these options that also taxi could be in the platform. But those taxi drivers that were not interested in that, didn't see the benefit of this app, well, they just died out, right? They had no more or very, very little customers really to pick up. So I think these three examples show give a good overview why digital transformation is needed. And you can see the more in the future we go, the more needed it is also. There will be someone that will disrupt like an industry. So that is the biggest risk. Also, I would define. I mean, competitors that are digital natives. That is the biggest challenge, because digital native means these companies grow or are developed in a digital way already, like Uber, right? They didn't have to transform anything. I mean, they grew up with the app and made everything digital. And if you look at some companies today, it's the very same, right? Like Airbnb, or like Alibaba in some areas, or Amazon also. These were digital native companies, right? They grew up in the digital world and have this advantage that that some of the companies don't have. They don't need to transform. We have changing customer expectations. If I look at banking, for example, 20 years ago, my expectation was just that my money is safe at the bank. But today I want to log into an application, right? I want to transfer money. I want to see how my revenue is developing. And some banks do better, some don't do so good in online banking. In Switzerland, some banks went as far as having like automated recommendation on how to invest your money, right? You will get some notification that says, oh, we saw that you have for like 3 months this amount of money, not which you didn't touch, and like according to the development of your revenue, of your savings, we think you will not need it, so we recommend to invest it in this or that way. And it gives you like funds, shares, and different options, and you can just accept one of the options and your money is invested and you get higher returns on that. So customer expectations. Today you have a lot more capable technologies and platforms that can support you. And then again, the dynamics, the competitive dynamics. Today, everything goes faster than 30 years ago. Today, we don't have so much time anymore to respond to market requirements, because else there will be someone who will. And then this goes a little bit in the same area like the first item. Some of the businesses are just like products of the history and legacy, means like things just like develop as they develop without anyone really questioning why they are like this. So sometimes it's good when you digitally transform to re-question, why is the process like that? Can we make the process more can we shorten the process? Can we get rid of 1 or 2 steps in the process to make it more efficient also? And can we use like a system, a bot, anything that can take over 1 step to make it faster and more convenient? So these are some of the benefits, and of course some are very generic. So the cost reduction, of course. Cost avoidance also is an interesting topic, sometimes forgotten, like a system telling you not to do this or not to do that, or you have to, or reminds you to do this or that, so you can avoid paying penalties, or you don't need to hire someone to do it because a bot can do it. So you prevent paying additional not needed overhead costs. Quality can improve dramatically with some computer vision system. I come back to that later. Increase speed, agility, and efficiency in general, but also on a per process basis. Visibility, comprehensive insight, so you can understand your customer better, especially when we talk about data analytics or sentiment analysis and things like that. A higher employee productivity, better compliance goes into the cost avoidance thing also, and also not to be underestimated, to improve employee experience, to make sure that your employees want to stay with your company, you don't lose the knowledge and the experience they have, and also the customer experience, of course, to retain customers or to win new customers because you're doing or you're offering something better than your competitors. And this one also we have to mention, because most of the companies, they would say, well, we do this, but don't worry, we will not get rid of like human resources. I have to be very honest there. One thing you have to think about is also to make sure that your employees can get rid of dull, boring, repetitive tasks, but also to reduce human errors. I think the target should not be to lay off employees, right, or to fire employees and replace them with a machine or a system, right? The idea should be to really help the employees become more productive, and that they can take on other jobs and other tasks that a machine cannot do, right? Like the higher sophisticated jobs, the jobs that need more EQ, something that a machine will not be able to do. So that is more the idea, I would say, in the end. So what is the expectation to you as leaders and company owners? I besides all the leadership skills, right, that will not change at all in the digital world. I think the most important one is really that there is support from the leaders. As I mentioned before, if you don't have like management buy-in, then it will not work at all. And in the end, you have to think about how can these technologies, how can you embrace those technologies and make your company's value change more responsive and more efficient. So again, provide leadership in bringing digital capabilities to the firm. That can be internal and or external, of course. Lead the mindset change. We all know like changing mindset is probably the most difficult thing to do. But that is like one of the biggest challenges you have as leaders. And well, make decisions and embrace the digital opportunities that are there. In the end, you're looking for this triple win factor, right? How can you make it better for your organizations, for your customers, and for your employees? And if you're in this like middle triangle here, right, then that's where you get the biggest benefits after all. As I need some water, I can ask if there's some question until here.
I think
nope.
all the Zoom shy people.
Huh?
Well, you guys can ask question, for example, about your relevant, your business, your nature of business, how you can actually use this, you know, just as general. Then maybe Patrick can address that. I think all of you are in different business, right? So
yeah,
ask
I
Patrick.
think that let's keep this question to the end. Yeah, maybe I explain more about the technologies, and I agree. I mean, if you have specific question around your company, then we can talk about that. All good for now. So, okay, thank you. I just continue then. So as I mentioned, so leadership is one, the mindset change is one. And of course, I said not the most important, but also important are the technologies. And this is where it gets now a little bit crazy because depending, oh, that was very fast. Depending what you want to do, we have like really a lot of technologies, emerging technologies around today that we can use. And there's one guy, German guy, Bernhard Marr, who is into really the fourth industrial revolution. He just wrote a book where he describes 32 technologies that we can use today, like to really accomplish that. I choose only a few of them. Those who thought, which I thought were the most important and relevant one. So I go in more details to these a little bit later. Also, if you have like a specific question to any of those, please ask me. But if I go through all of them, I think I can just talk another 1 hour or two. So I don't want to go too much into details. Like these four on the top left, cloud RPA, IoT, data analytics, partly also AI, I think are the most relevant and those which are probably the easiest one to start with, at least these four here on the left, and we can build the most use cases across all industries. And then these five on the bottom left, except for cybersecurity, which is also relevant, important to all of the companies. But AR, VR, blockchain, 3D printing, and drones, those might be more specific for industries, right, where you're in. Like the drones can be interesting for real estate or agriculture, this kind of things, right? But drones are not so relevant for, like, I don't know, if you're a lawyer or something like that. And then AI, I wanted to just invest 1 or 2 more minutes. AI is also like one of these hype words that everyone throws around and no one knows what it really means. So under AI, we have a lot of subtopics. Basically, there's 9 subtopics that are all considered under artificial intelligence, and some are listed here. So robotics is, of course, the thing that everyone imagine is like the robots, but mostly we talk about things like in manufacturing, like an arm or a machine or a crane, something like that, that just can do things independently, like lifting, placing objects from A to B, or transport, something like that. So maybe you saw the warehouse of AliExpress, where robots pick up the items in the warehouse and move it on a small device to another place where it's being packaged. So these are all robots, like more physical systems that can do something that a human could also do, but of course it can do it 24/7 and never gets tired also. Machine learning is a software oriented technology that, well, as the term says, the machine learning from historical or past data to find some patterns and make recommendations. In the best case, it can go into prediction. So it can predict like prices and things like that. Vision system is like the recognition of image, for example. It's used for like quality insurance. So if you produce something and you want to make sure that what was produced is like has a good quality, you can do that. You can analyze that today by a system, a computer, right? You don't have to have someone there like pick it up and look it from all angles, regardless from all angles, to see if there's something wrong with it. Also like packaging, right? It can see if something is damaged, or also like if you are printing logo on your package, if the colors are correct. So it has a lot to do with quality control. But I have 2-3 more examples for that also. Then text, image, voice recognition is what we mostly have today already when we use Siri or OK Google, right? Text recognition is also what we have for some time. So AI is basically also not something new, right? We have that since the 60s already, but it became more popular over the last few years just because the computing power that that AI needs has become far more, well, first of all, available, and second, far more affordable also. So again, is many technologies, but the reason I don't want to dig in too much now in these only is basically I want to show like the process. Like the question is always like, okay, I understand we should do it, what we can do, but where to start with it. And so I quote here Simon Sinek: "It's funny, today we got an invitation by the JOS MD, Stephen, right? Stephen Su, yeah. We got an invite to attend one of the webinars with Simon Sinek. So he's the guy who wrote the book Start with the Why. And this has become for me also like one of the most important things. Start with the why means basically ask yourself the question what you want to do and why you want to do it, right? Just don't do it just because you think, well, everyone else is doing it, I have to do it. You always have to have a purpose. You need to solve a business problem with the idea. So once you have that and you're convinced that it is the way you have to go, you have to create the right mindset and share the common understanding across the company. You have to put the right leader or leaders, depending on the company side, that can be internal or external, in place that make sure that your digital journey is on the right path. And then you formulate that digital strategy that you have. You address the threats and the opportunities, as we saw it earlier, and you write a digital strategy, like how you want to move forward with that. And then the next 2 steps is about finding skills, because that's in the end important. Technology is one thing, but you need the skills. And that's what I just mentioned before, right? So when we talk about digital business skills, and the businesses here may be the more relevant thing, even though you implement technology, you still need to have people who understand your business, right? You cannot just say, oh, I want to do, let's say AI, right? I want to implement something AI helping my company. You can have like technological skills, people that understand AI or an AI system. But if you don't have people that understand what your business does and how the business does it, then you probably fail. So you still need the two things. And now if you can make sure that your like long-time employees can get rid of these repetitive tasks, then they will find the time to help you with that. And that's what I meant before. A primary target should not be to get rid of employees, but to make sure the employees have time to help you with the digital transformation. And then in the end, you have all that, then you are able to work on your new digital capabilities or your new digital services and products also. Okay, I think that was a lot of theories. I would move into the use cases now.
There's a question.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, I don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick, there is a question from Taufik asking about your views about the chatbot with AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see if I have that one. Yeah, basically I have it here. Yes. Yeah, it's okay. It's basically it's a very good question in two aspects. Chatbot is one, and then AI is the second one. What happens today is I see a lot of providers, they come right away with that thing, right? Oh, we have an AI powered chatbot. And when you look a little bit closer into the product, you're wondering what is really AI in the chatbot. Chatbot have three different layers that you can have. Usually you start with a very, very simple chatbot. A chatbot where you feed like the questions and the answers by yourself. So you for example, you see that on many web pages, right? So you feed the chatbot by saying someone asking for a phone number, you give this answer. Someone asking for customer support, you give him this email address. It's very simplified, right? But I don't say this is bad. I say this is just a very simplified chatbot. Has nothing to do with AI, right? There's no AI in this. This is simply Q&A. You can save a lot of time of your support personnel or the people have to pick up the phones, or if they ask when is your opening hours, right? Or basically they can find it on the web page, but they prefer to ask in the chatbot. And then you can of course make it AI enabled. That is a system that learns from the questions that the people will ask. This is a very challenging thing. I think the systems are improving over time, but make no mistake, when you think like you can simply implement it and then it will answer all the questions that your potential customer have, this is not going to work. There's an example of Microsoft, I think 2 years ago, something like that. They implemented a chatbot on Twitter, and within 10 hours they had to take it down because the chatbot learned all the bad things. And that's of course what you do, right? You want to see the chatbot female or male. Does it have like kind of humor? Does it react to like certain sentences, you know? So this chatbot, they had to take it down because it was highly sexualized and also it was very racist, you know? So it felt like Hitler was a good guy and the Nazis did good things, you know, just because it learned from like what people told it, right? And that's a very, very dangerous thing. Not dangerous in terms of like if you think you can just implement and it runs, then it's dangerous, right? So you have to put it in a controlled way. It's a good thing to do, but it's not an easy thing to do also. I mean, you can see it. I mean, some chatbots are just horribly bad when you look at things, you know. For example, Yeah, recently I was on a web page for like a delivery service, and I asked for a phone number because I couldn't find it on the web page. It gave me a phone number. I called and the number was wrong, right? I just get like, oh, there's no recipient on this number. So I type in the chatbot, the number is wrong. Can you give me the correct number? So the chatbot replied with the same number. So whatever I put in, like different number, wrong number, it always gave me the same phone number back. So you see, this is a typical non-AI powered system, right? Just a Q&A. You put in phone number, regardless of what else you type with it, it will always think that you ask for their phone number, and then that's it. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. Let me quickly see. Yeah. There was a question, can we say that AI basically means the machine actually learns? Yeah, in the area of machine learning, yes. If we go back to this one, here, yeah, that is the part machine learning where the machine learns. So you give the machine, so there's like different ways of learning. I just want to give you a high level overview because you can talk another hour about that. So machine learning means I give you 20 pictures of a cat and the computer can learn what a cat is, right? But I need to tell it, look, this is a cat. This is like the lowest level of learning, right? So I give it 20 pictures of cats. And if I show him later 2 more pictures, one of a cat, one of an elephant, it will be able to identify which one is the cat, right? Because it never saw like a cat with like the long nose, let's say. And then you have like other AI learning systems that can, you don't tell it anything. You just give it like 20,000 pictures and you say categorize by yourself what you think is the same animal, and the machine will be able to put all the cats in one category and all the dogs in one category, right? And thereafter you can say, oh, you just identify cats. From then the system knows whenever you show a new picture, oh, this is a cat, this is a dog, this is an elephant, because it categorized by itself, right? Yeah, I think I stop here because I could tell a lot more. If you're more interested, I am happy to share about machine learning. Yeah. Let me run through a couple of use cases, if that's okay. And then maybe another 10 minutes, and then we can just open and discuss about other technologies also, if that's okay. So as I said, I picked the most relevant technologies, which I think might be useful to most of the companies. So Internet of Things, we're talking about sensors delivering data. That's not like rocket science. It's very simple things. So for example, temperature, motion, acceleration, but also like levels, water flows of liquidity, identification of gases. So imagine like sensors, like human sensors, like eyes, ears, nose, mouth, can do something, right? But these sensors can do it 24/7. It can do it far more accurate. Like let's take temperature, right? I can say maybe in my room it's currently 24 degrees, but the sensor will tell me that it's 24.3, right? And what I can do is I can collect all this data and I can make sense of it. So I can see historical data, right? Over 3 months, how is the temperature going up and down? That can make sense in different use cases. For example, in the cold chain, right? You need to make sure that your food always has like -5 degrees. So if you put a sensor with your food, you can ensure that from where it is cut in pieces until the customer buys it, it was always below 5 degrees. Position, that is an interesting thing also. Well, all of those sensors are interesting. It's just like a couple of sensors. So let's look at this. You can use it in smart agriculture. That's how it looks like. So you have sensors that do measure all these things. CO2, pH, temperature, how humid it is, and it's collected and sent back to a control center. So you don't need to go on the fields and measure and see how your things look like. If you have a drone that can fly over, it can measure the color of the goods, right, of the veggies or whatever you have, and can also feed that back. And then you have like a centralized control center where you can interact also. So you say, oh, it's not humid enough, you can just make it more humid. That is one use case. Location tracking is another use case. So you can add tracker to basically everything, products, devices that have a certain value. But of course, mostly it's being done with trucks and cars. Maybe trucks, you can real-time locate wherever the vehicle is. I was working with John Loke on a use case for buses, school buses. So they can centralize see wherever their school buses are. Many use cases here. I just give you some of the overview. Of course, you can also track family members. So you always know where they are. But be careful, they also can track you. Huh? So, so you see, you add the sensors here, you put it in the cloud, all the data, and you can basically have different status, location, conditions, events that are happening with that specific device that you put the sensor on. And then, of course, from that, you can build different services like real-time inventory accounting, or fleet management also. You can do real-time planning, prediction even. So that's like for IoT. Cloud, most of you might know already, it is the storing of data and programs in a remote location. So not in your office or at your home, and you access over the internet. You have large providers that provide those data centers like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Alibaba. And some classical examples you might have used previously are email, like your Gmail is basically an email service hosted in the cloud. This one hosted in the Google Cloud, right? Hotmail for some of us still use that. That was the email service of Microsoft. And I use this as an example because people think like cloud is something new. But basically, I think this is more than 20 years old. So the first email system I used was a Hotmail address, and that's probably 20 years ago. Website is also like a very classic service. The benefits of it is clearly it's an OpEx model. I think nowadays quite important where everyone is like maybe short on money. So you don't have to invest in big servers if you buy something new. You can just pay on a monthly basis, and also you pay as you go. You don't need to plan like how much space, how much CPU do I need. You can just go and turn on and turn off as you need it, and you only pay for that. So it's not only a lot cost savings, depending on cloud, they say between 30 and 70% cost saving. But I think this one also quite important, the OpEx versus the CapEx. You have improved security for your IT infrastructure. It's high availability. With one important thing to remember, you just need an internet connection from you to the cloud. If you have no internet connection, then it's not, not high available also. You're more flexible and agile, and it enables like you can have additional services onboarded almost seamlessly because it's working in the same cloud. You don't need to purchase for more hardware in your data center to add it. You wait a couple of weeks until you get it. Now in the cloud, you can just turn on, turn off also. So that is a little bit about the cloud and the benefits. RPA, robotic process automation, is what I mentioned, like chatbots. That is more RPA at the beginning. So a small bot takes over like a task or a small process, fully automated. So you teach it how it works, and then it can do it by itself. For example, onboarding of employees, customers, and vendors is always the same, right? You need to send a form, they need to fill it out, you need to put the data into a system. A bot can do this very, very well also. Report aggregation. So every month you get like 5 reports that you need to accumulate and put it in one report. A bot can do this once you showed it how to do it. Payroll processing, customer due diligence, pricing, monitoring, CRM updates, order processing, invoice processing, price comparison. So you see there's a lot of things you can do with RPA. There are tools around that help you to do that. So it's not like you need a tool for everything. It's like, let's call it an RPA tool, where you onboard all these processes and you can then just automate it. Big data and data analytics. This is like a landscape of use cases. So if you think, if you need some use cases, everything here, every single item here is one single use case. So I cannot explain you all of them. I just want to show you this was a landscape of data analytics use cases I built for a logistics company. And if you go like, if you just take like the marketing and sales, you break it down, right? You have like 8 use cases here. And then if you go to one use case, maybe the sentiment analysis, that looks the following way. Sentiment analysis can be done, for example. So you can take all the Twitter messages that are around about your company, and you can feel or you can figure out if customers or potential customers talk positively or negatively about your company, and in which areas they do it. So you can break it down. For example, in airlines, it's quite interesting. You can break it down if people talk positively or negatively about your check-in, the check-in time, the punctuality of flights, the food, the friendliness of the flight attendants. So you see, again, many use cases that you can build in data analytics. And AI, I just picked one that is easily understandable. For example, the car number plate recognition, which can be helpful for real estate, of course, but also like operators of parkings and operators of condominiums, right, to improve like the access, the payment systems. So you can fully automate that also. And when you talk about recognition, you can also recognize other objects. So as I mentioned before, defective parts in manufacturing to improve the quality, the face recognition for security purpose, for example, but also for statistical analysis, reporting, and management. For example, there is a nice use case that Mimos built to figure out how many birds are in the bird's nest factory at any time. So how many birds fly in and out. So there's a system, a camera, basically a high-speed camera that can just identify if a bird flies in and a bird flies out, and then you just do the calculation. So you know also the time when the birds fly in, when the birds fly out, and you can again do a lot more analytics. And that's what I want to show with the last slides I have for presentation here. The 4 essential technologies, how they work together. So you have data collection through IoT. As I just mentioned, you have, in that case of the birds, you have like AI-enabled vision system, but you can also say it's an IoT system. So the sensor collects data. The data is put in the cloud, same as like the big data system that will capture this data, store it, and analyze it. And the AI system in the end takes this data for learning and making recommendation and suggestion about it. So you see this 4 technologies working together, but you can also use it independently, of course, depending on what you really need. As I said, start with the why, which business problem creates the most headache for you, which business problem you want to solve with a technology, or what do you think in which areas you need to innovate to be more competitive, to be more efficient. And yeah, that's it. I know that was probably very high level in many areas, but I hope it was helpful at least to understand how many or what kind of technologies are around that can really help you. And the idea is that you really can, well, just ask me any question around well, these technologies or the digital transformation itself, how that can help your company, or get some ideas at least on what you can work on.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Before we open up for questions, actually there is another question from Vicky, who would like to know more about the blockchain technology. Probably can explain a bit more.
Yeah, okay. Blockchain, explained in an easy way, is a technology that is looking for transparency and traceability, right? A blockchain is a system where that you cannot alter. So you know all Bitcoin, right? This is the most popular use case for blockchain. So you cannot hack it, and you cannot steal from the blockchain itself. You can steal, and that's what happens sometimes if you don't protect your own coins in the right way, right? So you have a wallet, but the wallet only has like a very weak password, 1 2 3 4 5 6. You can still steal from it also, but mostly it is a system that you cannot alter, you cannot change it. So it's very transparent and traceable. So you can use it, for example, some use cases beyond cryptocurrencies are in food safety. So one company built a blockchain on tracing the production of their chickens, right? So every chicken get on the blockchain as soon as it is born, and every injection they get will be added on the blockchain also. So whatever happens, you can say like this: whatever happens to this chicken throughout its life, you can track and trace it in the end. So the day they slaughter it and they package it, you can put a QR code on the package, and if you get it in the shop, right, in the magazine, you buy it, you could like scan the QR code and you can see the entire life, what happened with that chicken. What kind of food did it eat, like which is the location it is from, information about the farmer, which injection did it get, how many eggs did it lay during the life, what is the age when they slaughtered it. Again, as I mentioned before, the cold chain, like what was the transportation way until it was in the shop, really. So this is the idea about it. So that's a use case in food safety. Another way could be, another one could be in the palm oil industry, so, or in the petrol industry. So you know, there's some countries that have like the black market for petrol. You can add some liquidity to it that you can add also to the blockchain, and you cannot remove it anymore, but anyone testing it can figure out where that petrol is from. Yeah.
Right. And also Vicky is asking about how about in the property industry? So how do you facilitate fractional investment or investment?
Yeah, a very good point. I recently talked about blockchain in real estate. So in the end, the blockchain is about having contracts, right? So basically it is possible to buy and sell houses and have it tracked in a blockchain. Some countries are quite progressed in this area already, because they have some issues in the past that they signed a contract on paper and no one found the paper anymore, right? So someone purchased the land, but they later could not prove it that they really bought it, right? And the land just goes back to the government. So it's also a lot of bribery and things involved in that. But now with the blockchain, once you bought it and it's signed by the two parties, that you cannot change that anymore. Everyone can see, depending on how you set it up, everyone can see it, who bought it, when he bought it, how much he paid it, something like that, right? So of course you need to have like the government building the framework around that, give the approval for it, right? But it's a very good question indeed. I think real estate can be a good use case for blockchain because it will make many things very, very easy, you know. I just sold my house in Switzerland, you know. It took like 3 or 4 months until everything was processed and done, and the government come back, want some taxes on it, you know, taxes to change the name, then taxes on the benefits I had. And it really took a lot of time, and the banks have to talk to each other, you know, making sure the money is transferred and blah, blah, blah. Took almost 3 months to complete the entire process. And we were discussing about some ideas how to speed this up. Basically, if you have on the blockchain everything online, you can sign digitally, make it legal that way. You can maybe finish within an hour, 1 day, maybe 1 week, the longest, all in a very legal way. Yeah. So it's a very interesting use case.
Patrick, I think you've got a potential here because Vicky is asking, can you help set up this blockchain for ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the blockchain expert, but I know some guys which are in blockchain, and I'm happy to facilitate that. I'm very interested myself also in this area. Yeah. That was Vicky, right? No,
Yes.
who was? Yeah, Vicky. Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think our latest member, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Yeah, let's talk about this offline. It's for sure very interesting.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks for staying back, guys. Yeah. I think looking forward to see all of you in person, right? Yeah. But I think more importantly, I want to thank Patrick again for sharing. I think the rest can agree with me that we learned, right? We've got some insights, and actually for me personally, it gives me some pointers as well. You know what to do with my business. Yeah. Thanks a lot, and I'll see everyone again soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.